him to come here for this happy occasion, because when he served as our vice president, he had the vision that this was the opportunity of putting a camera out in a stationary position, in the Lagrange position, L1, between the sun and the earth, with a constant view of the earth. It so happens now that a number of other instruments are on this payload, the one of which is extremely important is the ability to warn us ahead of time of a solar explosion, of that radiation coming to the earth, so that we can safe satellites and electrical grids and warn people near the poles that would be exposed to that radiation ahead of time, and to have it in a much quicker sequence. But the whole idea of this satellite was Vice President Gore's. It was named after one of the explorers, one of the sailors aboard the mission to discover the New World, Triana. And I'll just tell you, the Vice President wanted to say this, but I'll say it. Politics got in the way, and that mission was canceled. But fortunately, some folks, some visionary folks in NASA and NOAA, in fact, knew that this payload was so important, they kept it alive in storage, so then it could have these additional instruments added to it. And if this mission is successful, then what we are going to have is a continuous picture of Earth from 1,000,000 miles away, always on the daylight side of the Earth, because the sun will be behind the camera pointed at Earth, and you will see Earth rotate about its axis 365 days a year as the Earth orbits in its 365-degree orbit. It will be a whole new perspective. And I'll just say this as I turn it over to the Vice President. We had a different concept of ourselves when we saw our home taken from the perspective of the astronauts on the moon or in lunar orbit looking back at the Earth. Because suddenly we saw the planet as large as our thumbnail, and we could see our relationship to the cosmos. And anyone who has had the privilege of being out in space looking back, in my case only from low Earth orbit, it is an emotional and broadening perspective. Now we're going to see it continuously from 1,000,000 miles away. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you very much, Senator. I hadn't planned to have any kind of press conference here, but I am so happy to join Bill Nelson today when he just asked me to come over. Before I talk about the mission itself, I want to make clear to the media here in Florida that this mission wouldn't be taking place at all without Senator Bill Nelson. That's not an exaggeration. It's not a political bouquet tossed in his direction. It is simply a fact. He and one of his colleagues, our mutual friend, Senator Barbara Mikulski of Maryland, where this satellite was in storage for a decade and a half, the two of them made it possible to keep it alive, to resurrect it from storage, and with the leadership of President Obama and his staff, to get it out here on the launch pad and shortly, in an hour and 20 minutes and a few seconds. I'm watching it. You all are used to this kind of routine down here, but it's very exciting for me. But I wanted to start by thanking Senator Nelson. He really has done a heroic job, and most all of it's been hidden from public view. But he's been he's been a real ninja behind the scenes, making sure this was possible here today. So I want to thank you, Bill, for that. And Barbara's not here today, but I'm going to be in touch with her again also. Secondly, what Bill said about the scientists and engineers in NASA and NOAA, and some of their colleagues in the Air Force as well, have been steadfast in making it possible for this mission to come off. Some of the scientific teams, people don't know this story, but some of these scientific teams have worked on a volunteer basis for 14 years since it was originally canceled, literally, because they believe in it that much. So as for the mission itself, Bill described it very well. I would only add one feature to it. Yes, the constant ability to see the Earth whole, fully sunlit every single day, the opportunity for every man, woman, and child who lives on the Earth to see, if they wish, their own home in the context of the whole, can add to our way of thinking about our relationship to the Earth. And of course, the Earth's ecosystem, principally the climate balance, but other dimensions of it as well, are now threatened as never before. So mobilizing the general public will to put pressure on political and governmental leaders in every nation to take action to save the future of human civilization is one of the principal missions here. At the end of this year of 2015, in December, all nations of the world will be meeting in Paris to negotiate a treaty. And yes, there have been negotiations in the past, and yes, some people have come to feel, well, it's just another one. This is not just another one. You saw the historic agreement between President Obama and President Xi Jinping of China. Just this past week, China announced, didn't get much news coverage over in the U.S., but China just announced they are implementing a nationwide carbon emissions cap and trade program in less than a year and a half. We have seen the EPA move to reduce carbon emissions in the U.S., and country after country is now moving in this direction. One of the happy developments has been the astonishing drop in the cost of renewable electricity from photovoltaic cells. It's almost like computer chips came down so fast in their cost, or mobile phones and wind power. We're now seeing the same thing in batteries. So this is a turning point, and this satellite will contribute to this general change in direction for us as we face this challenge. Now, in addition to these images, all of the scientific measurements that Bill Nelson talked about are absolutely crucial. And the scientific community has done an amazing job in exploiting the opportunities provided by this unique orbit at the L1 point. But one of the measurements has received very little attention, and I think it should receive a lot of attention. This satellite will make it possible for the very first time to measure far more accurately the energy budget of planet Earth. Because what we call global warming is not really best measured with temperature. Temperature is what the scientists call a noisy signal. And since 90% of the energy trapped by the global warming pollution goes into the oceans, and since the oceans turn over very slowly, it's a noisy indicator. What this satellite will make it possible to do when it reaches the L1 point, 100-something days from now, is to measure not only the energy coming into the earth from the sun, which we can measure today, but we can also now, for the first time, measure the energy reflected back into space from the earth and re-radiated as infrared back into space. And you subtract that second number from the first number, that's the problem we got to solve. Because the amount of energy that's being trapped in the atmosphere it is growing. And that's really the problem. That's why the ice is melting and the sea level's rising in Miami Beach and a lot of other places around the world. That's why the storms are getting bigger and the floods and the mudslides and the droughts are getting deeper and longer and the weather's getting a little chaotic and more chaotic year by year, and as well as the temperature going up. So we'll be able to measure it accurately, way more accurately, 10 times more accurately than ever before. So I'm very, very excited about it, very grateful to the scientists who have worked so hard, and very grateful to Senator Bill Nelson and his colleague Barbara McCulkey, and a small number of senators and congressmen in the other political party who helped on the condition that I not use their names. And I'll leave you to decipher why they would issue that request, but it's not really, it should not be partisan in any way, shape, or form, of course. Anyway, I've talked too long, Bill, but thank you.
Okay, well, we've got an hour and 4 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes to launch, so we're going to get back over to Bob Cabana's briefing. And I just wanted you all to have an opportunity to meet the man whose first vision in the mid to late 1990s has brought us to this day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.